Hi there. Welcome back to the Bible in a Year Live Tanakh Project. Today is week 11, day 7, and we'll be starting a new book today, the book of Judges. The name translates the Hebrew title Shofetim, which could also be rendered leaders or chieftains. It refers to the style of government in Israel from Joshua's death to Saul's kingship. The judges did not preside over courts as the English term might suggest. Judges tells the repeated cycle of how the Israelites fell into apostasy, so God handed them over to their political enemies. Then, after they cried out to God, He raised up a leader who saved them from their oppressors. In both situations, God was the agent of discipline and rescue because He is the ultimate judge. Judges teaches that salvation involves more than just an individual's forgiveness from sin. Sin has consequences that are social and can affect an entire society. Therefore, when God brings salvation, He may dramatically change societies and nations as well as individuals. Further, this book teaches that salvation, deliverance, is always from the Lord and never because someone or some group deserves it. Let's dive in. Judges chapter 1. After the death of Yehoshua, the people of Israel asked Adonai, "Who will go up for us first to fight against the Canaanite?" Adonai said, "Yehudah will go up. Here, I have handed the land over to him." Yehudah said to his brother Shimnon, "Come up with me into my assigned territory so that we can fight against the Canaanite, and I likewise will go with you into your territory." So Shimon went with him. Yehudah went up, and Adonai gave the Canaanite and the Perizzite into their hands. Of those in Bezek, they killed 10,000 men. They found Adonai Bezek in Bezek, and they fought against him. They killed the Canaanite and the Perizzite. But Adonai Bezek fled. They pursued him, caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Adonai Bezek said, 70 kings with their thumbs and their big toes cut off gathered food under my table. God has paid me back in accordance with what I did. They brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. Then the people of Yehudah fought against Jerusalem, captured it, overpowered it with the sword, and set the city on fire. Afterwards, the people of Yehudah went down to fight against the Canaanite, who lived in the hill country in the Negev and in Shephelah. Yehudah also attacked the Canaanite living in Havron, formerly called Kiryat Arba, and they overpowered Shishai, Achaiman, and Talmai. From there, they attacked the inhabitants of Dever. Dever was formerly called Kiryat Shefer. Caleb said, "To whoever overpowers Kiryat Shefer and captures it, I will give my daughter Aksha as his wife." Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, captured it, so he gave him Aksha, his daughter, as his wife. After becoming his wife, she persuaded him to ask her father to give them a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What do you want?" She said to him, "Give me a blessing. Since you gave me land in the Negev, also give me sources of water." So Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. Next, the descendants of Kenai, Moshe's father-in-law, went up out of the city of date palms with the people of Yehudah into the Yehudah desert south of Arad, and they came and settled with the people. Yehudah went with Shimon his brother. They overpowered the Canaanite who inhabited Tzfat and completely destroyed it. The name of the city was called Hormah. Yehudah also took Azah with its territory, Ashkelon with its territory, and Akron with its territory. Adonai was with Yehudah, and they took possession of the hill country, because they could not drive out the inhabitants of the valley, since they had iron chariots. They gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moshe had said to do, and he drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak. The people of Benjamin did not drive out the Yevusai who inhabited Jerusalem. Rather, the Yevusai continued living with the people of Benjamin in Jerusalem as they do to this day. The house of Yosheph likewise attacked Bethel, and Adonai was with them. The house of Yosheph sent spies to Bethel. The city was formerly called Luz. The spies saw a man coming out of the city and said to him, "Please, show us the way to enter the city, and we will treat you kindly." So he showed them the way into the city, and they overpowered the city with a sword. But they let the man and all his family go free. He went into the land of Hittim, built a city and called it Luz, which is its name to this day. Manasseh did not drive out the inhabitants of Beit Sha'an and its villages, Ta'anak and its villages, Dor and its villages, Yiv La'am and its villages, or Migdo and its villages, so that the Canaanite managed to keep on living in that land. In time, when Israel had grown strong, they did put the Canaanite to forced labor, but failed to drive them out completely. Ephraim did not drive out the Canaanite living in Gezer, so the Canaanite continued living in Gezer along with them. Zebulun did not drive out the inhabitants of Kitron or Nahalal, so the Canaanite continued to live among them, but became subject to forced labor. Asher did not drive out the inhabitants of Akko, Zadon, Aklav, Akziv, Helba, Afkim, or Rekov. So the Ashari lived among the Canaanite who were living in the land because they didn't drive them out. Naphtali did not drive out the inhabitants of Beit Shemesh or Beit Anat, but lived among the Canaanite living in the land. However, the inhabitants of Beit Shemesh and Beit Anat became forced labor for them. The Emori forced the people of Dan into the hills, but they would not let them come down to the valley. The Emori had resolved to live in the Heres hills, in Ayalon and in Sha'alvim. But when the power of the house of Yosef grew greater, they became subject to forced labor. So the territory of the Amori was from the Scorpion ascent and the rock upward. Judges chapter 2. Now the angel of Adonai came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you up out of Egypt, led you to the land I swore to your fathers, and said, I will never break my covenant with you. You, for your part, are not to make any covenant with the inhabitants of this land, but must tear down their altars. However, you have paid no attention to what I said. What is this you have done? Is this why I also said, I will not drive them out before you, but they will be on your flanks, and their gods will become a snare for you? When the angel of Adonai spoke these words to all the people of Israel, they began crying and wailing on the top of their voices. So they called the name of that place Bochim, crying, and sacrificed there to Adonai. When Yehoshua had sent the people away, the people of Israel had gone each one to his assigned property in order to take possession of the land. The people served Adonai throughout Yehoshua's life and throughout the lives of all the older men who outlived Yehoshua and who had seen all the great works of Adonai, which he had done for Israel. When Yehoshua, the son of Nun, the servant of Adonai, died, he was 110 years old, and they buried him near the boundary of his property in Timnath Heres, in the hills of Ephraim, north of Mount Gaash. When that entire generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation arose that knew neither Adonai nor the work he had done for Israel. Then the people of Israel did what was evil from Adonai's perspective and served the Baalim. They abandoned Adonai, the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods, selected from the gods of the peoples around them, and worshipped them. This made Adonai angry. They abandoned Adonai and served Baal and the Ashtaroth. The anger of Adonai blazed against Israel, and he handed them over to pillagers who plundered them and to their enemies around them, so that they could no longer resist their enemies. Whenever they launched an attack, the power of Adonai was against them, so that things turned out badly, just as Adonai had said would happen and had sworn to them. They were in dire distress. But then Adonai raised up judges who rescued them from the power of those who were plundering them. Yet they did not pay attention to their judges, but made whores of themselves to other gods and worshipped them. They quickly turned away from the path on which their ancestors had walked, the way of obeying Adonai's mitzvahs. They failed to do this. When Adonai raised up judges for them, Adonai was with the judge and delivered them from the hands of their enemies throughout the lifetime of the judge. For Adonai was moved to pity by their groaning under those oppressing and crushing them. But after the judge died, they would relapse into worse behavior than that of their ancestors, following other gods to serve and worship them. They abandoned none of their practices or stubborn ways. So the anger of Adonai blazed against Israel. He said, because this nation violates my covenant, which I ordered their fathers to obey, and they don't pay attention to what I say, in the future, I will not expel ahead of them any of the nations that Yehoshua left when he died. This is how I will test Israel to see whether or not they will keep the way of Adonai, living according to it as their ancestors did. So Adonai allowed those nations to remain where they were without quickly drawing them out. He did not hand them over to Yahushua. This is the word of the Lord. Amen. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you again tomorrow, where we start a brand new week and continue in the book of Joshua. Remember to check out our website, Biayl.Project.com. Blessings.